Hey there, welcome to Board Game Barrister, our local game shop in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I'm Andy, and I'm here with Anthony, Peter, and Gordon, and today we're going to talk Square One, a really cool game all about trying to complete these little puzzle boards using the different colored squares you've been earning throughout the game. Let's get into it. Welcome to Square One from Boardcubator. In this game, we're going to be using these colorful pieces to fulfill the demands of our sequence tiles, and those sequence tiles will earn us more pieces and eventually points toward winning the game. We're going to start the game out with a deck of white sequence tiles and one of black sequence tiles, and we're going to lay out 4 from each deck in the center of the table. Each player is going to start the game with 2 level 1 yellow pieces and 1 level 2 green piece. We're going to deal out some little player aid cards, and one of those cards will have a little first player note in the corner, meaning that player gets to go first. Now on each of your turns in this game, you have to take 3 actions. The different actions you're allowed to take are all laid out on your player aid card, and we're going to talk about them now. First up, you can take a sequence tile from the center of the table and place it in front of yourself in your play area. You can have up to a max of 4 of these sequence tiles in front of yourself that you're working on. Each of these sequence tiles has some requirements alongside these rows where we're going to be placing our pieces, and it also has rewards you'll earn for completing it. And you can be working on up to a max of 4 unfinished tiles at a time. Every time you use this action, you're immediately going to replenish the supply in the center of the table with a new sequence tile. The next action is place, which means you're going to place pieces into your sequence tiles. To do this, you're going to select one of your tiles. We only have the one, so let's pick this one. You're going to look at the topmost row that hasn't already been filled with pieces, so we haven't put any in, meaning this is our topmost row. And in order to take this action, you have to have all of the pieces demanded for that row, and then you'll fill that row with those pieces now. If we wanted to, we could use our third and final action to place one more time and complete this tile. And anytime you complete a sequence, you immediately get to resolve it and all of its rewards. For completing this one, we're going to start by taking our rewards, which is 1 more yellow piece and 1 more green piece, and then we're also going to get all the pieces we used to complete it back into our supply. White sequence tiles always get discarded back into the discard for that deck, and if this deck ever runs out, we'll just shuffle those back in. Let's jump ahead a bit here to look at the remaining actions you can take. Next up is merge. When you merge, you're going to select 2 or more of the pieces that are currently in your supply, add their levels together, and then trade them in for a single piece of that level. So if we wanted to, we could trade in these 2 level 2 greens for 1 more level 4 purple. Similar but opposite is split, where you take 1 single piece in your supply and you break it out into 2 or more separate smaller pieces. So we're going to split this level 4 orange piece into 2 smaller pieces, a level 3 blue and another level 1 yellow, for a total of 4 levels. One more little action you're allowed to take is to gain, which just means gain 1 level 1 yellow piece. You can do that for 1 action. But the last and most important action we found is the master action. The master action is going to allow you to play pieces onto multiple sequence tiles all at the same time by looking at the top unfilled row on as many of those tiles as you'd like to, and playing pieces from your supply into them. The only caveat with the master action is that you're only allowed to do it once per turn, so you want to try to line up the timing for when is the right time to use it. But now we're in a great spot to fill out multiple sequence tiles all at the same time, which will gain us bonus rewards. So let's do a master action right now. This white line between these 2 pieces means that I can use either a level 3 orange or a level 3 blue to complete this. Here you see the benefit of an awesome master action where we were able to complete 3 tiles all at the same time. Whenever you finish a black sequence tile, you're going to score points out of the deal, which means that instead of discarding these, you are instead going to turn them face down and put them in your own point supply to be scored up at the end of the game. And in addition, and one of the most important parts of this game, is that anytime you're able to finish multiple sequence tiles on the same turn, you're going to get bonuses for doing it. If you finish 2 tiles in one turn, you get a little 1 bonus point token. If you finish 3 in a turn, you get a 2 bonus points token, which is what we just pulled off, so let's add that to our supply. And if you're able to pull off all 4 of the maximum number of sequence tiles you can have at the same time and finish all 4 of them in one turn, you get a bonus 4 points for it. The end of the game comes when a player claims a black sequence tile such that the one they use to replace it is the final one in the black sequence tile deck. When this happens, we're going to continue the round until every player's had an equal number of turns. So after our final player gets their turn, the game ends immediately. We're going to count up all of the points on our sequence tiles as well as our bonus tokens, see who has the most points, and they're our winner.
You know, it's funny, the game says that you have to be the master of timing. And I felt that a lot when I was playing, because at the very end of the game, I had 10 points worth of stuff that I was trying to finish up, trying to wrap it up, and I just couldn't get it there right at the very last second. So yeah, timing really was a big part of making sure that you were sequencing everything correctly.
Well, and that's interesting because it is timing. Like, you immediately think of, I certainly immediately thought of timing of how can I get 2 or 3 or 4 tiles to complete using a master action at the same time, because that'll get you some points. But it is also important that you know where your timing is in terms of when is the game going to end. That is also completely relevant.
Yeah.
I did think there was a really cool, like, the resource gathering felt like the 2 phases of the game unlock at the right times, right? That to me was a really cool, like, feeling. It was like gathering, and then it was just a blitz to get all the points at the end. I really liked the way that it had those phases to it.
Yeah, like any good engine builder, it has a first gear, and then you move into a second gear, and then it kind of ends just before you're ready for it to, right? Purple's not available.
You mean one of these?
Yeah, that's what I mean right there, one of those.
There's a very strong want to finish all of the cards, get all of the pieces. Yeah, pieces, good. But what you have to pay attention to is which pieces is it that you're actually collecting, because you need very specific ones if you do want to score for some of those high point cards, especially if you do want to go for the longer, like, wide board combos, which score you the most points. At the outset, I had a lot of pieces. I had a lot of the small, the yellows and the greens, and Gordon was saying, I have none of those small pieces. Meanwhile, he ends up getting the most points by the end, despite the fact that Peter and I had just these massive piles of pieces that we could use, but the tiles or the cards that we were trying to finish didn't require those. They needed other things, which Gordon had been working towards for most of the game.
Place. Master.
A, B, and C. Give that man 2 points.
I would like 2 points, please.
Here's your 2 points.
That is so many
Later
points.
on.
I just saw how many points Gordon just scored off of
Gordon
that.
is... I didn't give enough credence to the resource tiles also being comboable. Like, I kept seeing the pointers thinking that's where you want to point, but no, if you get 3 or 4 of the resource tiles too, that's a really good way to bank early points that you don't have to worry about later in the game.
And where I found those was as an adjunct, where it's like, okay, so I can maybe complete a point tile this turn, but if I wait till next turn, I can now do the master action to complete one of these extra little tiles. I don't actually need the pieces from that tile. I'm just going to spend an action now, delay by a turn, so that I can get that extra point, or maybe 2 points, depending. For people who like to sequence chains of actions, this was
The game felt really good.
Yeah, this was great.
So I want to talk about who I think would like this game, because I think it's cool. It's an engine building game, and it's a puzzly game, but it kind of eliminates a bunch of, or never even touches a bunch of things that would be red flags for a lot of people in those types of games. Unlike its counterpart, Project L, it is not a spatial planning game at all. And there's no probability calculating either. You're not building a deck where you go, all right, the chances of me coming up with 3 of that card I'm going to need on my next turn are really good because I haven't seen them yet, so you're not doing any card counting, no probabilities. So I think it is a very approachable engine building puzzly game where you're not screwing other people over on purpose, you're not stealing stuff from other people at the table. It's just a really cool, thoughtful game that's going to give you some big moments of victorious reward, and cue the bugles, where you get to do really cool stuff, and if you don't win, you probably at least got to pull off one cool move by the end of the game, which I think is really cool. Remaster.
There it is.
There's a little buglist. Alright, that's 4 done. Alrighty, if you want to see our video on Project L, you can check that out here. Hit that like button, subscribe to see our new videos every week, leave a comment, and check out our online store. Project L's in there, Square One is in there, and we will see you next time. Thanks for joining us.